Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
And I am the Gamer in Yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta. Tonight we have a Warframe creepypasta. Or possibly just the Stalker?
It doesn't really have a name. I suppose the name is a Warframe creepypasta.
It could also be Despair, Dread, and Hate.
Possibly, but we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. So, as you may notice, Dr. Leviathan is not with us today. He just couldn't make it. So, I decided to drag Gamer in Yellow on to the show and do a video game creepypasta.
Since games are kind of my thing.
They are.
They're my jam.
And since Gamer in Yellow here likes Warframe, I decided to hunt down a Warframe creepypasta. Now, you can't find this one on Reddit or creepypasta.wiki or .com. You can find it on the Warframe forums. If you just probably Google Warframe creepypasta, you'll probably find it. This one was typed up by Rockstar Kid. This is his handle, I guess. And it was posted on June 1st of 2013. So it's a bit of an older one.
That was soon after the game was basically born.
Yeah.
Because now we're up to update 19.
Yeah, well, we'll get into... that's pretty much the information we have on this one. We did try looking for other Warframe creepypastas. However, there seems to be a strange amount of Spanish or Mexican creepypastas for Warframe.
Well, they're Spanish readings of them, it seems. I don't know if they're originally in Spanish, but it seems when we went on YouTube looking up for readings of it, there was just none. Yeah. They were all in Spanish. And
it was like, Spanish. All right, well, yeah. So, and since this one is a relatively shorter one, I decided to actually have Gamer in Yellow here just read the story with some little commentary. So we're just going to have that happen now.
As most of you know, update number 8, which was many, many freaking years ago, we're up to 19 now, was, sorry, that's just an aside, was recently released. There are a number of cool new items, like the kunai, that have been added to the game. Some of the most popular themes are Despair, Dread, and Hate. Weapons that are used by the infamous Stalker.
What about Agony?
There is no Agony.
Not even update 19?
No. That might have been one of... Actually, I think that might have been one of the specters that came in. No, the acolytes that he had. You wouldn't know. You would not know. The Stalker, as we know, is a being of unknown origins that hunts Tenno to make them pay for their sins. Anyway, back to these new weapons. It seems a large chunk of the community are after these rare items. I, myself, have been working towards slaying the Stalker enough times to acquire all of his blueprints. However, I've decided to discontinue my quest as I had an odd experience that has been haunting me for a few days now. I'll start by saying...
Sorry, before you continue, and so we begin every creepypasta that involves a video game ever.
Yeah.
that line right there is just every creepypasta with a video game.
Mm-hmm. Cliche intro, go. Ready? Start. Okay. I'll start by saying that I've been playing Warframe for a decent amount of time, around 140 hours, which nowadays is almost nothing.
How many hours have you think you've marked out of the game?
Just no.
Just no? Okay.
Well, I've been playing for 3 years.
All right, so that's a lot.
So it's a number.
It's not 140.
It's a number that I don't want to know. Nothing extraordinary. I started playing when the open beta first came out, but I still consider myself a dedicated player to and member of the community. I can say with absolute certainty that out of all the hours upon hours of playtime, sure, buddy, sure, I never, ever had such an experience as one I'm about to share with you.
Pause. So, again, now, as an aside, to be fair, this guy, this is at update 8, so the guy probably started not too long ago. So, 40 hours is still pretty impressive.
He said he played during the beta as well.
Did he? Okay.
The closed beta before the open beta. So it's a decent amount of time. Back then it's a lot of time. Nowadays it's nothing.
Yeah. Also, another cliche about video game creepypastas, it's now that I've told you all this exposition about my history with the game, now I'm going to actually tell you the horror.
Yeah, the actual story's starting now, so...
Right. And...
Ready, set, and go. It started when I began a mission solo on M Prime, which means Mercury Prime.
Okay.
For those who don't know, one of the easiest ways to summon the Stalker is to kill a boss, then travel to M Prime. It's a short, easy raid mission, and to find the Stalker, you just repeat over and over until he shows up.
Oh, really?
It's because what happens in Warframe is when you kill a boss, that boss's organization will put a hit out on you, on the Stalker, who is an assassin that has no allegiance, basically.
So it's just like a gun for hire, or a sword for hire.
Pretty much. So, because he has a hit on you, you don't know when he's going to show up. So, it's literally like a 1% chance he'll show up. So, you could just be in any mission, then all of a sudden he'll just show up.
Huh, alright.
So, it's kind of like when you're marked, you're always sort of on edge, because you don't know when he's going to show up, because it could be at any time. And he's no bueno when he shows up.
Apparently.
Muy no bueno.
We'll get into that after the
Of course. Okay.
After our reading of this episode.
Well, my reading.
Yeah. Whatever.
Okay. I had been playing the mission for about an hour and a half constantly with no luck. Disappointed, I decided to try one last time before I headed off to bed. It was late. I wanted to get some rest. So I started the level, skipped through the cutscenes, and began the mission. Everything seemed normal at first. I ran around, busted a few containers, killed a few Grineer, and the same old routine. I think one of the reasons I don't get too bored with that level is the fact that it takes place on the new Grineer ship, which, again, nowadays,
is that the Grineer
it's
galleon
ancient.
That I saw in the update when we looked it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's back then it was new. Now it's obviously been out for.
Now it's a dinosaur.
Yeah, it's just kind of the old standard nowadays. Mm-hmm. But anyways, it's so vast, big open spaces and all that. Anyway, after sprinting through a few more corridors, I noticed a few things that were off.
I'm sorry, gotta pause again. It's like, it's so vast, big open spaces and all that. Anyway, I was sprinting through corridors.
Well, there's corridors that connect the big open spaces.
Okay, fine, I guess that. It's just...
There's big open spaces and corridors. There's both.
Yeah.
You have everything. All of the options.
The fancy, brand new ship.
Exactly. Damn, I keep losing my space. Big open space. Okay. To begin with, there was no sound. Well, technically there was sound, but no ambient noises or music or anything that you would normally hear when playing through the mission. I wasn't too terribly surprised. I mean, with the new update, there's bound to be a massive amount of bugs. But there was something else. I had run through about maybe 5 or 6 areas and had not encountered one enemy. Further along I went, the more unnerving it became. Just vast areas that were completely empty. I even got a little chill.
Ooh.
Yes, exactly. Suddenly, Lotus appeared on the side of the screen and told me to ignore my original objective, and that I was to exterminate all life on the ship, which actually happens in the game. Okay. It's a normal thing. You could just be doing...
I think actually, the few missions I have played of this game, because I have played a few...
He's a bit of a newbie.
I am a little bit. I do recall, like, going into a corrupted ship, or,
yes.
like, dealing with that, and, like, when she realizes that it's corrupted, she's like, all right, objectives changed, kill everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
sometimes there's just no saving them.
I am familiar. Yeah, exactly. I am familiar with that.
Yes. So. Anyways, back to the story. That's when I realized something else had been amiss. Lois hadn't said a word for the last few minutes. As silly as her comments can be sometimes, it was nice to know that she was still there, helping me out. The relief was short-lived, though. I looked up to see how many enemies I had to kill, and it read 1. Furthermore, there was no quest objective or waypoint telling me where to go. How the hell was I supposed to find one enemy in a massive ship with no clues where to find it? Slightly annoyed, I started off towards the new area. Not 2 seconds later, the lights flickered, and the Stalker's icon showed up where the Stalker's head where the Lotus's had been moments ago. Finally, I thought this was my chance, except instead of his usual odd noises with translation, it was silent, and the only words, or rather lack of words, next to his picture were ... Ellipses. Well, whatever. As long as I got the blueprint, all of the bugs would have been worth it. I spun around in place, ready for a fight, but the Stalker was nowhere to be seen. I looked at the extermination counter, and it still read 1. Perhaps this was a new secret mission, where I had to eliminate the Stalker and complete the objective? I had no idea. So I kept running around. Eventually, Lotus reappeared. This was where things really started to get twisted. Lotus looked different. She looked maybe 30 years older than before. I could see wrinkles around her mouth, and her face muscles seemed to droop. She looked defeated, a feeling that I would have never associated with her. It was more than a little shocking. At this point, I was just kind of hypnotized by all that was happening. I wasn't really focused on playing the game anymore. Lotus appeared to lose her ability to speak normally as well. Instead, much like other characters that contact the Tenno, a small text box appeared next to her icon. It read, "I'm sorry."
Oh, no, hang on. It's
I'm ellipses, sorry, ellipses. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, cool. If you've ever had a moment where you feel like throwing up, but are so scared that you can't get up or move or do anything, then you know how I felt when I read those words. I just froze. The Lotus disappeared, and I sat there just staring at my idol Vauban, who seemed much less intimidating than normal. I didn't have long to wait for the next surprise. I noticed a movement on the left side of my screen. Jolted out of my trance, I reached over to my mouse in an attempt to quickly turn the camera angle and see what had been in my peripheral vision. But to my surprise, or as close as anything could be considered as surprising at the point, the camera didn't respond in the slightest. It was frozen there, focused on my Vauban. At this point, I was somewhere between angry and scared. I tried aborting the mission, only to find I couldn't even bring up the menu. So I got up to shut down my PC by holding down the power button. As soon as I stood, the screen suddenly turned completely black. I froze, again, and I just stared at the screen. He came on the screen, the stalker, just him, standing completely still, facing me. Then he spoke in his foreign tongue. Underneath the translation it read, despair, dread, hate.
Yeah, so that's where we get the items.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, those are the names of his 3 weapons that he drops. In 2 seconds, I had my finger pressed down on the power button, and my PC shut down, taking with it the horrifying sight that is still burnt into my eyes, even as I wrote this. Too shocked to do anything else, I collapsed onto my bed and fell asleep. I woke up the next morning, and after stretching and wiping my eyes, I remembered what happened, wondering if what I had seen had just been some sort of nightmare. I opened up Warframe. All was normal, no signs of anything that had occurred the previous night. I played with a few clanmates, and actually managed to still have a good time. Still, I worry. I'm hoping he'll leave me alone now. I've promised myself that I'd never try to hunt the stalker again, and I intend to keep that promise to the grave, however soon it may come.
Dun dun dun! Alright, and we're back. Yeah, that creepypasta.
That was a thing.
Yeah. You
tell me what you think about it.
Okay. My first thoughts on it are just like, okay, this is a pretty standard video game creepypasta. Guy plays a game that he really likes, goes into somewhat flavorful detail about like the inner workings of the game, and I guess it could be considered a little bit exclusionist in terms of like, because like he names things but doesn't explain some of them, but then he does explain some of them, but.
Well,
kind of just assume that you've already played the game.
Well, the thing with any game in regards to creepypastas, if you don't play the game, you're not going to get most of it.
Yeah, you're not going to get the context.
So you kind of have to play the game to actually truly understand it.
Yeah, and like I said during the reading, I have played the game a little bit. I'm
trying to work on him, guys.
I'll get into it eventually, like thoroughly, but. Yeah, from like the first couple of paragraphs are pretty standard video game creepypasta fare. Like, guy playing the game, he's telling all about it, how much he likes it, talking about this weird thing that happened that is burned into his memory and will haunt him to the end of his days, however soon that'll be, because the thing is still out there waiting. Also, like okay, so that ending where like it's like dread, despair. Hate.
Yes.
Or
no, you're right.
No, it's despair, dread, hate.
Doesn't matter the order.
And then he's just like the creature is on the screen, staring at the player, not the character. I would have liked. I thought it would have been a little bit more. I know this is like probably supposed to be a little bit more realistically like creepy and like, wow, this is a really weird thing that happened in the game, and I'm sure glad it didn't have. Like the problem is. Leviathan would probably speak up about this, is that nothing really happens that endangers the character.
I agree.
Much like a lot of great video game creepypastas. I feel like if you're going to do a video game creepypasta, up the ante.
There needs to be some sort of threat to the person.
Have the stalker come out of the suddenly not be in the game, but suddenly in the character's room.
Yeah,
like in the shadows, or be right behind him, and he turns around and it's like not there. Or have him have like audio, visual, like hallucinatory visions of it.
Yeah,
like have him like hear the traditional sound effects of the stalker behind him, and then he goes and turns around and it's not there.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much...
Have it stalk him in real life.
Yeah, pretty much the problem is the fact that it's all within the game.
Since...
Granted, that's what it's about. It's about something weird that happened in the game, but it doesn't...
And that's a good Kickstarter, but it needs to up the... If you're going to make a creepypasta, a video game creepypasta that's truly, like, scary, and not just a weird, like, one-off thing like this one is, you need to up the ante. You need to escalate it. Like, escalation would definitely help this creepypasta.
Like, in my opinion, when I was reading through it, when it got to the point where he shut everything off and went to bed, that almost should have been the halfway point.
Yeah, exactly. And then,
so then when you wake up, everything's different the next day, and there's things affecting him in the real world, right?
Yeah.
Because... It builds a bit, but there's really no payoff. It just kind of stops, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just like, and I woke up and stretched my legs and checked on Warframe, and everything's all fine and dandy. I'm just never going to go touch the stalker again.
Creepypastas should not have a happy ending.
Also, the opening, and there's there should have been like a twist and it's like, but what if? And there is, he tries it with like, I'll never hunt the stalker again for the rest of my days. However long that is. So it's like,
which he's hinting that he may die soon.
Yeah, it's like, then you need to elaborate on that. So, like, this is a creepypasta. The beginning of it, like, where he's like, I've been hunting, I've hunted down the stalker a bunch of times, and to get the items and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, he's been farming the stalker. And that could have been a good, like, jumping off point for, like, the stalker being a revenge story for the stalker. Like, you've pissed off the stalker because you've been farming him so many times that he's now going after you.
Specifically, regardless if you have a mark or not, he just wants you.
Yeah, exactly, because you've pissed him off. You've been abusing the nature of the game or the stalker. Mm-hmm. That would have been a really cool aspect of this. Yeah, sorry guys, this episode's not going to be like, I hate it, I want it dead, and blah blah blah, that Leviathan does. Or like super critical, because we don't have our super critical gentleman here.
If you want to use that term, sure.
But yeah, I think that there were definitely some ways to fix this by make this better, and not just be like every other video game creepypasta. Like, Ben Drowned starts, like, especially if you're going to do there's a monster, there's a ghost or a creature in the machine kind of thing. Like, Ben Drowned does the escalation, like, there's this demon thing, or this evil spirit in a Majora's Mask game.
Yeah.
And it starts affecting the guy out in the real world. Like, I could have seen the stalker doing that to this kid.
Yeah, for sure.
And stuff like that. Like, it could just, it would be a really cool idea for that to happen. And unfortunately, we just kind of get this lackluster, like a lot of Pokemon creepypastas, where it's just a really fucked up or weird Pokemon game cartridge that the guy finds and plays it, and then...
But there's no consequences.
There's no consequences, yeah. Like, I think that's even the same thing with Sonic EXE, isn't it? Like,
pretty much. Nothing really happens to the person.
Yeah.
So there's no feeling of dread or despair.
Like, you don't have
you don't, like, hate having to play it.
Yeah, like, you don't have to go overboard like it's Skyrim Secrets 2, where, like, it's an apocalyptic reality, like, check, essentially. Like, it's game over for the world because of the game. Mm-hmm. But it's... You can do like a cool, creepy like escalation in the real world with the video game character coming, the ghost or this demon creature of the video game character coming into the real world and stalking its prey.
Yep.
So that's really kind of my thoughts on it.
I'm not going to say it was good by any means. Like, it's not horrible. It gets its point across. It's just it doesn't go anywhere with it. That's my whole problem.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the issue there too. Like, and the writing isn't too bad, but it's not great. It's like there were some spelling errors I saw and some grammar things.
Yeah, I got stumbled up in there.
Yeah. I still think that him
might have just been my amazing reading that made it.
Yeah, maybe.
Seem
I still
better.
think that the whole like description of the Grenier ship, it's like it's so vast and big, open spaces, and now I'm just going to run through corridors.
It's because
I know, but it's just
big open spaces. I
got a chuckle out of like him saying that one sentence and then saying this other one.
Yeah, it's kind of
contradictory.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like most video game creepypastas, you have to
kind of play the game to actually get the full experience.
Yeah.
Like when he said that his character's Vob, and you have no idea what that is.
Yeah. And
most people don't.
Honestly, like, that's kind of why I wanted to go into this without actually playing a whole lot of the game. Like, we had off recording, we had discussions about this one because you wanted me to play the game a little bit more before doing this episode and reading the story. And I was like, you know what? Leviathan has had a couple of times where it's been out of context for video games.
Yeah.
Like, that he just doesn't care about because he didn't have the nostalgia for it. I've played this game like 3 times maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I've made a character and I've played the tutorial missions, and then I've played like maybe 1 or 2 other missions.
That's about it.
That's about it, yeah. And not for like disinterest, it's just not time or whatever. But so I kind of wanted to get the same kind of like, I wanted to see what that was like to have the out of context thing.
Yeah, because we kind of got both experiences here. Like I have all the experience in the game, so I can see it from that standpoint, and you see it from the standpoint of other people.
Yeah, and I can see like,
so from an outsider standpoint, what would you say?
From an outsider standpoint, I mean, the guy does describe the levels and stuff like that.
Like, did you have a visual in your head?
I honestly have no idea what the stalker looks like, because that's all we ever get for the description of the creature is just the stalker.
Yeah.
And I know vaguely what a Tenno looks like or what a Warframe looks like, so I just picture a creepy version of that. But that's about it. Like, I don't even know what, like, Despair, Dread, and Hate, I don't even know what those weapons look like.
Yeah.
Like, what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's just, it's that kind of disconnect. I can see where the disconnect is. Like, I don't think I could, I think I'd have to play the game a little bit more to get what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Mm-hmm. So that's really the main problem with this, is for an outsider, it's hard to grasp and actually get a visual in your head of everything that's going on. For me, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. And that said, this isn't on creepypasta.wiki, this isn't on .com, this is not on No Sleep. This is on the Warframe forum. So anyone checking out this creepypasta is somebody who's playing the game.
Yeah, which is what it's intended for, technically.
Yeah. So I can't I'm not going to...
You're not going to judge it for that.
I'm not going to judge it against it, like, as much as I should, or as much as, like, Leviathan's probably screaming somewhere about me not, like, recommending it or, like, not liking it because of the context and stuff like that. The game, or the story was written by a Warframe fan who likes creepypastas for Warframe fans who may like creepypastas. So yeah, that's really all I can really think of. I would have liked to. I think if the guy goes back to, if Rockstar Kid ever goes back to this, which I doubt, I think that
don't sell yourself short. He might. He might be listening to this right now and be going, you know what? They're right. I can make a far better one with these ideas. This is amazing.
He could be like, fuck you, I was just writing a story. I was just writing a little story for Warframe fans.
That might be the more accurate response, but you never know.
Yeah. But, yeah, like, I would like the stalker to be more described. Descriptions of the levels was fine enough for the most part. Maybe adding a little bit more flavor, but otherwise, maybe just explain a little bit more. Well, again, it's that thing where, like, as an out of context, that, like, somebody who hasn't played the game fully, like, there are things that I don't understand. I can't visualize because I don't play the game. But if I played the game, I probably would recognize what the M Prime solo mission is, what the exact look of the Grenier ship looks like. Because, I mean, just like saying Grenier, like, for a Warframe fan, I know exactly who that is, and even I know what a Grenier ship looks like.
But for someone who's never played it,
yeah, it's like future Soviet tech with some biotech,
basically. Yeah. And it's always all rusty and...
Yeah, it's all, like, shitty kind of... Yeah. It's like... It's
That's their style.
It's Space Trucker.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So I get where... I know that from, like, playing the one game, because I think that's actually in the intros. But yeah, like, you're just saying Grenier, nobody outside of the Warframe community is going to know what it is. So
the long and short is, for an outsider, it might not be that immersive or scary for them. For someone who's actually played the game, it has more of an effect. The game
isn't really that... Like, I gotta say, this game... Like, the story isn't really that scary because... the beginning of... Or the end... Even, like, throughout the game, like, he's like, oh, man, I'm frozen. Oh, man, I'm freaking out. My character can't move. And it's like, I wouldn't be that... I might have some anxiety just as a gamer anxiety because I can't move my character. But at that point, I'm still thinking that it's just in the game. It's not something supernatural or weird.
Yeah. Well, he said that from the get-go. He was mentioning bugs and stuff like that. So
he knows that
the whole thing is kind of overshadowed a little bit by it might just being weird bugs that are happening.
Yeah, it doesn't really lend itself to be spoopy or spooky.
Yeah.
in the context of like a creepypasta or like a normal creepypasta would be, because the character, the player, this player knows that it's all in the game. Nothing's going to hurt him in the real world, and that's what you kind of need to make this kind of a better, like a scarier story. Is that you need to have the thing you need to have things happening outside of the game, in his room, in his personal space. Not just him like, oh man, weird shit's happening on my computer. I can't move, I can't turn it off, hit the button. I was like, whoa, weird, creepy. I will say that the when the creature like popped up on screen and stared at him reminded me of actually a creepy moment I had in real life playing Assassin's Creed, either Brotherhood or Revelations. When you meet Minerva for the first time, this is a little bit into that game.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, spoilers. Ezio meets Minerva, an AI or like a projection of one of the ancients that you've been searching, searching for relics from, and like she appears in like almost like a hologram or something like that, and like starts talking to Ezio, but then starts talking to you over his shoulder, and her gaze is super creepy. I was like. When I was first started playing, I was like, "Oh, whoa, like what the fuck?" Because she's talking.
Well, that's the kind of.
But she's not. And she's talking to you. And by you, I mean like you and who you're actually playing as in that game, which is Desmond, the guy in the modern period.
Yeah, but the whole idea of that game is you're supposed to be him.
Yeah, exactly. So and so that's like that. I can understand that last bit of it being like a creepy moment, because like when a character in a game suddenly starts talking to you, it gets a little bit more personal and creepy.
Yeah.
So like when the stalker. Like I could visualize that moment being creepy, but otherwise, again, like he turns it off, boop, done.
Yeah, the power button should not be the safety button to get away from a creepypasta.
Yeah,
something has to happen.
Something actually has to happen to the character, the person in the real world, not in the digital world. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's I'm pretty sure that's it for what I have to say about it.
That's
do you have
it.
anything else?
Well, like I said, it's not a bad creepypasta for someone who's actually played the game for a number of years, but I have a lot of the same opinions you have, is that it needs to be expanded on more, and something actually has to happen to the character, and things need to be explained for those who don't actually know the game.
And like, I feel like every time you're on the show, we have it's a story that is happening. Like nothing happens to the character at all.
Well, then
it's just like
maybe you should find other stories.
Yeah. Well, the problem is a majority of video game creepypastas. The creepiness that the person tries to invoke is always in the game and not to the actual player. Mm-hmm. So,
well, maybe I'll sit down and start typing, and maybe I'll be out here next time with my own.
All right, well, sure.
Since apparently no one can do it right in your eyes.
Well, you know what? Well, yeah. You know, if you want to go for it, go for that. But yeah, for this one, I'm not going to recommend it as a person that's never played creepypastas. Or never played Warframe.
Yeah.
I can't recommend this creepypasta because it's suffering from it's suffering from no context.
I agree.
If you're a Warframe fan and you like creepypastas, you might get an enjoyment out of it. At the same time, though, again, nothing happens to the character to threaten him fully. Like
the way I see it, though, there's so few Warframe creepypastas out there. If there are any other ones, if you play Warframe, you might as well give it a read just for something to do, you know?
Or learn Spanish.
Or learn Spanish, and then send us translations of the other ones, please.
No, please don't. We've done that. It's called Homicidal Lou.
Oh.
It was we had to Google Translate it. It wasn't very fun. Anyway. Okay, so yeah, so you would recommend it for Warframe fans?
For a Warframe fan... If you like creepypastas, you might as well give it a read. I'm not going to say it's good. I'm not going to say you're going to get terribly scared. But it's fun to read through. You might as well.
Okay.
It's not horrible.
I'm not actually going to recommend it. Maybe if you're a Warframe fan and like the creepypasta, and like creepypastas as well, you might find an interesting, like a cool creepy moment when the stalker just looks at the guy. That's about it. Otherwise, that's it.
And I may have a little bit of bias on this. Obviously. That might be possible.
I don't know if you've been on the show a couple of times, but like that's pretty much like it's all opinions here.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point of this.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, that's our two shticks on it. So if you like what you heard, if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted. Rockstar Kid, if you're listening, we've just laid out some ideas for how to make the story better and creepier. So if you want to go back to it, go for it. Also, I'm on Twitter at I'm on Twitter at Review Cultist. You can leave us comments in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Kiwi6, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. We're on iTunes, so leave us a review on there. That'd be awesome of you. And if you want, you can leave us an email at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas you'd like to discuss on the show. Particularly, if you out there know of a video game creepypasta that isn't just guy plays game,
that has something
weird in it, guy turns off game, problem solved.
Yeah.
Like, if
something needs to happen outside of the screen.
And I would recommend looking through our list to make sure that we haven't done it already. But yeah, I'd like to see some other video game creepypastas, because I like video game creepypastas. Like, I love the twist. I love, like, taking video games and making them scary, like putting them into a horror setting. I guess that's why I like Stay Alive, which is a cool horror movie.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So, like, yeah, I'd like to see some more interesting or more creepy, like truly creepy video game creepypastas.
We need creepypastas, not unsettling pastas.
Yeah, or not weird pastas.
Yes.
Because, I mean, those are interesting, but, like, just for the idea, not the actual story. Anyways, that's that. Also, if you'd like, you can donate. Go to crazonstudios.tumblr.com, where we have a title card for each episode, and on the side there's a little donate button. So, until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
And I have been, and always will be, the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well. So I grabbed onto Gamer in Yellow to...
Hey, Gamer in Yellow. There's multiple of me.
Oh, yes. They're numerous.
I can clone myself.
Can you?
How do you know I can't? I can't. I can't. I can't.